I wonder if there's anybody here who struggles with self-doubt. With self-doubt. You wonder if God's really chosen you to do the things that he's called you to do. Or he's really put those things on your heart. Or maybe you're coming off not a series of wins, but you're coming off a series of mistakes and you're starting to almost disqualify yourself a little bit. And you needed to come to church today to hear how much God not just loves you, but how much he believes in you. And I know that sounds a little bit crazy to say, but there are people that have a hard time believing in God, and then there's some of us that have a hard time believing that God believes in us. And I'm here to tell you that God has chosen you, and he's called you to great things. And if the enemy can get you to doubt yourself, you may not get to see those things for your life. Because God doesn't call the qualified. What's he do? He qualifies the called, right? You're not here because, you chose yourself. You're here because God chose you. And this is important, and then this is not some sort of pep talk, some sort of like self-help situation. The answer to the self-doubt is not believing in yourself more. It's believing in what God says about you more. Does that make sense? God has a lot of great things to say about you and a lot of promises, right? And you need that identity. Come on, say identity. In God as a son and daughter to kind of live that out. Because I'll tell you what, God has called you to do things bigger than yourself. There's a difference between being a doormat and being a bridge. A doormat is when people walk all over you, and a bridge, people are walking all over you. But when you're a bridge, you're actually getting people somewhere. We're not known for picking up our rights. We're known for laying down our rights. And sometimes that actually speaks louder than anything you could say about yourself. Come on, if you have a defender, can you make some noise? If he's been good to you, if you could trust him, can you make some noise? Let's go over these points. From the example of Jesus, this is his playbook. Watch your mouth. Power of life and death is in the tongue. Number 2, guard your heart. It says in Proverbs chapter 4, our heart is the wellspring of life, right? I love it this way, the wellspring of life. Or it says, guard your heart above all else. It determines the course of your life. And in Proverbs chapter 4, there's this picture of our heart being a well, okay? Your source. And a well needs a lid, because if it doesn't have a lid on it, it can get contaminated. If you poison a well, what happens? All the water that comes through it is poisonous. God says your heart is the same way. You need to protect your heart. You need to guard your heart. It is the wellspring of life, and it determines the course of your life. If the enemy can poison your heart with self-doubt, it will not be faith that overflows from your life. And this world needs a river of faith flowing from this church. This world needs faith out those doors. You need to be at work believing for people who can't believe for themselves. You need to believe for family that wants to give up. You need to grab them and pick them up and say, our God can do it. Don't tell me he can't do it. You need people who feel weak to be reminded that in that weakness, he is strong. You need people speaking to you, not just godly advice, not just advice, but they need to echo the voice of the Father to you. You need people to say, this is what God says about you. He has said this about me, and we're brothers and sisters, so you need to hear him say it about you. Who's your spiritual family that's helping you with this? Turn to the person next to you and say, check your circle. Check your circle. Watch your mouth, guard your heart, check your circle.